What's up guys, Nate here from Protoculture and Shadow Chronicles, back again here at Sonic Academy with another how to use video. Today we're checking out a pretty cool little plugin from Waves. It's called OVox. It's a super creative Vocoder plugin. We're going to dive in and take a look at the basics on how to use this. Let's check it out. Okay, we're going to be demoing this on a vocal because it's kind of what it's intended for, although you can use this for all sorts of different material if you want.
This is a strange love.
That's what we got. And let's just take a quick listen to what this is capable of doing. We're going to enable our effect.
This is a strange love we share.
So there you go. That is OVox from Waves. And let's open up the expanded view. You have two different views. We're going to be spending most of our time in this view. And take a look at some of the controls. So this is pretty much a vocoder, but quite a feature-rich vocoder as well. At the top section here, you're going to see the voice or your modulator signal. Currently it's set to track, so it means we're getting the signal from our vocal over there. The synth or the carrier signal currently is the internal synth. We have these two oscillators here. You can actually route an external synth or the vocal into itself as well. If you set up a sidechain, you can use pretty much any synth you want or any sample or sound that you want as the carrier signal to be modulated by the vocal track. I'm actually going to just reset this quickly and we can take a listen to this default patch.
This is a strange love.
So currently we are on auto note source here. Because we have a MIDI channel routed into OVox, it's overriding the pitch tracking. If you set this to MIDI, you have
This is a strange love.
MIDI like that, or if you delete the MIDI, there'll be no sound at all. Set this to voice and it'll bypass the MIDI input.
This is a strange love we share.
And now it's basically pulling its pitch from the pitch tracking algorithm on the voice itself. We have some tolerance settings here for how it picks up the pitch from that as well. And an arpeggiator, which is quite interesting. Let's just switch this back to our MIDI mode. We'll turn on the arpeggiator.
This is a strange love we share.
Nice little feature that as well. Now let's take a look at the note mapper quickly. You'll see I have this locked. This basically will keep the settings for the note mapper regardless of what presets you're going through or whether you reset it or not. Let's turn the note mapper on whilst in voice mode and see what's happening. We'll turn that on. We are in F, so we can set that to F, and we have a minor pop 2 chords enabled. So you have a number of different options, presets of chord packs that you can use. We'll go into edit, and whatever pitch the pitch track is pitching up will play on this keyboard, and you'll notice that certain keys have certain chords assigned to them. The blue ones are the chords that will be played, and the pink is the trigger key. So let's take a listen to that.
This is a strange love.
You can see it's jumping around a little bit, so let's just adjust the time for the tolerance.
This is a strange love we share.
Cool, so it's running through the chords according to the pitch tracker. You can also, if you have this set to MIDI, the note mapper will pull from MIDI instead. Let's go back to MIDI.
There's a strange love we share.
And that's just a single note triggering those chords in there. If you look at the harmonies section and the scales as well, these can actually be used to sort of auto-tune the pitch tracking as well. If you want to lock it into a minor scale, for example, or a major scale even, we'll do that. And let's go back to our voice tracking.
This is a strange love we share.
You can hear that's actually adjusting the pitch now to lock it into that major scale that we have there. So let's turn this off and we're going to move on to the rest of the plugin. Right, let's go down to the bottom and just check out this section. This is basically the mixer for all of the various components of our vocoder. You have the sibilance, a volume that you can adjust. It's the sounds in the vocal itself. You can use this exclusive mode to basically mute the synth as well when there is sibilance. You can then also mix in the voice itself. This is the dry vocal. Let's turn down OVox.
This is a strange love.
You have an auto-tune function for this, a natural, hard, and then the notes, you'll hear that all.
This is a strange love.
And then a filter as well,
A strange love we share.
just for mixing that into the vocoded signal as well. Then you have a dry output from the synth. We have the MIDI enabled again now. We can listen to that.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
That's just the dry signal that's without the modulation. If we mix the OVox channel back in, that's when you're going to be hearing the modulation on the carrier signal.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
Then you also have a tone balance
This is a strange love.
and an output and a built-in limiter as well. Right, I want to take a look at the oscillators now, where the actual tone is coming from. We've got a classic mode, which gives you 4 different wave shapes that you can sweep between.
A strange love we share.
Any of the other modes that you use are going to be loading up a IR filter. Take a listen to that.
This is a strange love. A strange.
Now, instead of the waveforms here, you're going to basically be skewing and stretching the filter over the frequency spectrum with this XY pad here. Listen to this.
We share. This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
There you have it. So there's a number of those to choose from. Lastly, you've also got a harmonics section here. This basically will be the maximum amount of harmonics. If we listen to the synth quickly, we'll just take that out. Nice bright saw wave. If you back down on the harmonics, you'll go all the way down to 1, eventually end up with a sine wave. So it basically acts as a really sharp filter for this oscillator. We also have a noise source as well, with a filter built in for that as well, and then a master tune and a fine tune dial. We also have a unison mode, which we can dial in up to 4 voices, detune, and spread as well.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
And there you have it. So that covers the sort of oscillator section. Now you have a formant filter as well. The focus being the sort of center point of the formant filter. You have a Q setting, which is the resonance.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
Then the formant itself.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
And then the speed, which is basically the formant tracking coming from the vocal. You can listen to the difference here.
This is a strange love.
That being the most responsive.
This is a strange love.
To almost being non-existent, the formant tracking there. That's basically where the modulation is coming from on our carrier signal. The voice dynamics basically is the amp tracking from this. So this kind of gives it a more compressed effect.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
With a lot of the softer stuff becoming louder. And if you do it this way, you'll get a much tighter response for the volume.
This is a strange love. A strange love we share.
And there you go. So that pretty much covers the synth section as well. You have 2 of these obviously as well that you can put together and layer on top of one another. I'm going to quickly just look down at the bottom here. We've got an EQ. I'm not going to get into this too much. It's fairly self-explanatory. You have a number of different options for the filter types. Then we have an effects section as well. You can add everything from auto panning all the way to reverb. You also have a number of different flavors for each of these, except for the limiter that is just by itself. There's also a master effects send over here, you can basically mute the effects by turning that down to 0. Same goes for the modulation, which we're going to look at now as well. This is where things get quite interesting. You have quite a lot of options. You've got 4 different modulators. An LFO, or that can be switched to a sequencer as well. You can draw in your sequences. You can also draw in your own LFO shapes as well, and select from a number of different presets that you have here. You have the rate, obviously, the start phase for the LFO. The smooth, you can basically smooth the output of that as well. A couple of different playback modes. And the warp function, which I find really interesting, you can logarithmically skew the speed of the playback. So you start off slow like this and then speed up. And this will ramp it in the opposite direction, starting off fast and finishing off slow, which gives you some interesting modulation. You've also got 2 ADSR envelopes that are triggered by MIDI. You can hear that happening. You can hear the ADSR triggering there. You can also, if you were just using the note mapper as well, use just single MIDI notes to trigger those ADSRs and have that triggering modulation elsewhere in the synth parameters. Then the amplitude modulation and the pitch tracking, as well as the formant tracking, these can all be used as well as modulation sources. So let's just take a look at what we can do with that. Let's take the amplitude, for example. We can drag that onto our formant filter and increase the modulation. So the louder it gets, the more modulation you have on the filter. There you have it. And let's drag one of these in as well. You'll see these little highlighted slots that you can drag modulation on into underneath everything. So let's try this one on the panning, for example. And then obviously your modulation can be mixed in and out with this modulation mix knob over there. That pretty much covers most of the settings for OVox, although I do feel like I'm only scratching the surface here. There's so many different ways that you can use this, especially with this modulation matrix down at the bottom. It really is quite a clever little plugin, this, and I highly recommend you go and check this out. Just lastly, let's just take a listen to 1 or 2 other presets. You can just hear the range of sounds that you're getting out of this.
This is a strange love, a strange love we share. This is a strange love, we share. A strange love we share. This is a strange love.
So yeah, whether you're using this to sort of enhance your backing vocals or use as a vocoder, or for sound design purposes, you know, and not just on vocal material and pretty much anything, definitely want to check out this really, really clever little creative effect. That's OVox from Waves. Right, guys, I hope this video was helpful. I will catch you guys again soon right here at Sonic Academy. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.